Hi, welcome to video 2 in a 3-part sequence of movies showing you how to do impositions. In this video we are going to make an 8-page imposition, and you will need 6 sheets of 11 by 17 paper. Please use 11 by 17 paper because that way what you see in the video will be the same as you'll see with your own sheets of paper. Let's get started. Begin by taking a sheet of 11 by 17 paper and putting it sideways, horizontally, on the table in front of you. Then lift up the left-hand side and fold it to the right and match it up as close as you can. Crease the sheet and fold it neatly. Okay? Once you're finished with that, rotate this piece of paper 1/4 of a turn clockwise. Don't turn it the opposite direction. Make sure it goes clockwise. And then pick up the left-hand side and fold it from left to right. Once you are finished with that, make 5 more exactly the same. Again, fold it from left to right, rotate it 1/4 turn clockwise, fold it left to right. Fold it left to right, turn it 1/4 of a turn clockwise, fold it left to right. I want to emphasize to you how important it is that you fold it in the proper direction. If you don't follow this process, you're going to end up with a signature in which the pages will be in the wrong order. It's got to be done exactly right. Now this is pretty easy at this time, but in the next video I'm going to show you larger signatures that are much more complicated. So we've got 5, 1 more to do. Now, if I've gotten ahead of you, just go ahead and pause the video and finish up. Okay, we have 6 folded sheets of paper. Let's talk about these for a minute. I said that you have to fold them in the exact right method or else it won't work. The pages will be in the wrong order. So many years ago, there was a term that was developed to describe the folded imposition. And that description, or that title, is called a signature. And the reason why is because after the person who created this imposition was finished, he signed it. Thus it's called a signature. So each of these things, eventually when we get finished, is going to be a signature imposition because it will be signed by the person who does the imposition. We can put these signatures together in more than one way. Basically, there are 2. Take 3 of your signatures that you've made. Take the first one, open it, put the second one inside, put the third one inside that. This little booklet that we just made is called a saddle-stitched booklet. Saddle-stitched booklets are very common in printing industry. Here's an example of the University of Houston commencement program. It is a saddle-stitched booklet. The signatures are put inside one another. Why would we call it saddle? All right? When I open it, it looks like the saddle of a horse. It's a saddle. Why do we call it saddle-stitched? Because there are 2 staples that are properly called stitches in here. 2 staples. When I have a saddle-stitched booklet, one of the things that happens is the inside pages stick out more than the outside pages. This changes the amount of trim that will be necessary later on. So take a look at this, put it together, and see that the inside pages stick out more. Now, I can even see it from the side like that. This phenomenon is called shingling, and it occurs because the inside signature is being pushed out by the folds of the paper that's farther in. Shingling is an occurrence that occurs all the time in saddle stitch documents. All right, put that aside and take your other 3 signatures and stack them on top of each other. Okay? Now this is a big difference between inserting the signatures inside each other and stacking them on top of each other. This type of stacking is done for many other kinds of binds. The most common is perhaps the paperback or soft cover book. In this case, the individual signatures are stacked on top of each other. Then the binds are trimmed off, or actually ground off with a stone, and glued together to the cover. So a soft bound book has the sheets of paper, the signatures, stacked on top of each other, then those signatures are glued together. Another common type of binding process that requires the signatures to be stacked on top of each other is this spiral pattern. Now this is a spiral binder or binding, and notice that it is shaped like a screw. It goes downward. See, it's not straight across. So in this case, what happens is the individual signatures are stacked on top of each other. The trims the binds are trimmed off, and then holes punched in the paper. This screw is then screwed through it, and then it's nipped at the end so that it doesn't come off. All right, so this is a spiral binder. And when I open a spiral binder, one sheet of paper goes down. You see how on one side it's higher than the other, and that's because it's a screw. A third type of binding that requires the signatures to be stacked on top of each other is called Y-row binding. Notice the difference between spiral and Y-row. Y-row is straight across. Okay? It looks a little bit different. It's also made out of wire instead of plastic. But when you open this, the pages stay straight across. Okay? So this also requires the signatures to be stacked on top of each other. The last type of binding that requires the signatures to be stacked is called case binding. Now, you might call this a hardbound book, but its proper name is case binding. Now, if you were to take a hardbound book and peel back the top of it very carefully, you'll see that those signatures are there and that the folds are still there. What happens is that the individual signatures are sewn together with thread, and then the signatures are sewn to each other. Then, after this entire book block is created, it is put inside of a case. This is a case, and then the ends of the book block are glued to the cover. So this is a case for a case-bound book. Both of these, I should say, I guess all 4 of these types of bindings require the signatures to be stacked on top of each other. Okay, let's take the saddle-stitched document. Take it apart and look at the first signature. This has 8 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's one sheet of paper, but it's 8 pages. That's an important distinction. So if we have 3 of these, we have 24 pages. So what we're going to do is put it all back together again. Face the folds to your top and to your left, and then use a pen, and in the lower outside corner, we're going to paginate this. We're going to put numbers from 1 through 24, and we're going to take a look at what those numbers look like in a few minutes. So go ahead and start. Begin by saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. While I'm doing this, I want to fill you in on another term that we use in graphic arts, and that is the term folio. The proper name for a page number is called folio. Now you might want to remember that because in the future we're going to be talking about things that have high folio or low folio. So just kind of put that in your memory banks and keep it for later. Okay, so we have 1 through 24. At this point, I would like you to take a look at the bottom corners of your booklet and make sure that all of the numbers, the folios, that are odd are on the right-facing pages. So look here, 1, 3, 5, 7. They're all on the right side, aren't they? On the left side are your even folios. That's always to be the case. Never, ever, ever put an even folio on a right-facing page. It's not proper etiquette, if you will. So those are our folios. At this point, next thing I want to show you is the notion of spreads. A spread is 2 pages. So if I open this document to these 2 pages, that's a spread. Okay? Notice that in this case, pages 4 and 5 are next to each other. And over here, pages 8 and 9 are next to each other. 2 pages next to each other is a spread. Let's take a look in the middle of this booklet. Page 12 and 13 are a spread. Go back to the beginning, pages 4 and 5. Please notice that page 4 is on one sheet of paper and page 5 is on another sheet of paper. Okay? Pages 4 and 5 are seen together as a spread by the reader of the booklet. Thus, this is called a reader's spread. Pages 8 and 9 are seen together by the reader of this booklet, and they are known as a reader's spread. Pages 12 and 13 are seen together, and they're known as a reader's spread. So this is the same for the rest of them in the back of the book. If 2 pages are seen by the reader next to each other, it's called a reader's spread. Now, if you take just the first signature and look at it without the others, pages 4 and 21 are next to each other. Now, any 2 pages that are next to each other are a spread. Thus, 4 and 21 are a spread. But obviously, the reader is never going to see those 2 pages together because the other pages will be on other signatures that will be bound together. This spread is called a printer's spread, and the printer's spread is what the printer sees on the sheet of paper as it's being printed. Okay, now, there is one very special spread in every saddle-stitched booklet, and that is the middle spread. And this is a reader's spread, and it is also a printer's spread. If a spread is both a reader's spread and a printer's spread, it is known as a natural spread. Okay, let's take the 3 signatures that are stacked on top of each other, and we're going to put the folios on these as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, this is different, isn't it? Instead of the signatures being inside each other, they're on top of each other. So the page numbers, the folios, are in a different order, aren't they? So if someone were to create an imposition that was designed for a saddle-stitched binding process and then put it together for a perfect bound book, it wouldn't work, would it? All the pages would be in the wrong order. That's why it's important that the person who creates this thing sign off. Make sure it's signed. You know, back to the word signature. So we have 24 pages. Still have 24 pages, but the signatures are paginated in a different way. Let's take a look. Here's the saddle-stitched. Pages 1 and 24 are next to each other. Here's for perfect binding or hardback binding, and pages 1 and 8 are next to each other. And you see how important it is that the pagination be done for the type of binding process going to be used. There's a few more terms that we need to look at within this video. Let's go back to our saddle-stitched booklet. All right, so take your saddle-stitched booklet, make sure that the pages are in the proper order from 1 through 24. All right, we're going to take the outside signature. All right, it has page 1 on it. Put the others aside for now. All right, every sheet of paper has a front and a back. All right, this is, in this case, this is the front and this is the back. When this signature is folded up, we call it a signature imposition. When it lies flat on the table, it's called a form. All right, so there's actually a form on the front and there's a form on the back. Which side is which? Okay, the way you tell this is find the lowest folio. In this case, it's got page 1 on it. And page 1 is on the front. So please mark the side of the form that contains page 1, front. Okay, if that's the front, the other side is the back. So we'll mark the other side back. When we print, we must make sure that the image is in the right place on every sheet. That process is called registration. In order to do that, we have to make absolutely sure that the guides, the sides of the sheet of paper that we use are always the same. The guides will be the same on the press, on the folding machine, and in the paper cutter. Always the same guides. So there are 4 sides of the sheet of paper. Which sides are the guide sides? To figure that out, I want you to find the lowest page number on this signature, page 1. Put it down so it's facing away from you. In other words, you're looking at the back. Put page 1 facing down and to your right-hand side. Page 1 facing down and to your right-hand side. Then take your pen and put an X here, an X here, and an X here. These sides, these X's, refer to the guide sides that will be used on the press, on the folding machine, and on the cutter. Turn the sheet over. Trace those guides. Notice that it's opposite on one side. Just go ahead and trace the X's, and those are the guide sides. Don't forget to mark your 2 signature booklets. This is a saddle stitched booklet. And we'll mark this a perfect bound booklet. And we'll put both of them in our portfolio. Okay, that's it for this video. Let's do a little recap. What we did is we took 6 sheets of 11 by 17 paper and folded each one of those into 8-page signatures. We combined those signatures in 2 different ways. In one case, we put the signatures inside each other to make what is called a saddle-stitched booklet. The second case, we stacked the signatures on top of each other, and that would be used for perfect binding, for case binding, for mechanical binding such as Spiro and Wiro, etc. We then looked at creating the folios, putting the page numbers in the right order. You might remember that always odd-numbered folios go on the right pages and even-numbered folios go on the left pages. We opened a signature and we looked at which side is the front and the back. Remember, the front is always the side with the lowest folio. We looked at the guide sides. In the case of the saddle-stitched booklet, we looked at 3 different kinds of spreads. We looked at a reader spread, a printer spread, and a natural spread. That's it for now. Next time we'll use bigger paper and make 16 and 32-page signatures.